at the middle of the page where it says additional administrative activities, let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
Okay. One of the things listed as maintain WWWA office. And my question is, did the WWWA have a physical office address during the time period 2004 through 2017?
No,
Where was mail received by
it was
the association?
it was at a
Where-
PO box.
Okay. And where was the PO box? Strike that. Who was responsible during the time period 2004 through 2017 for getting mail at the PO box?
I was.
Okay. And what was a business address listed anywhere for the association, or was it just the PO box during the time period 2000?
It was just the PO box. If I had to have something shipped,
Okay. And so my question is, what did you do during the time period 2004 through 2017, if anything, with respect to maintaining a WWWA office?
I always had a room in my house.
Okay. And then on the third page of Exhibit C17, same section at the bottom, it says house WWA materials. Did Bruner and Associates LLC have any responsibility during the time period 2004 through 2017 with respect to housing WWWA materials?
Yes, they had actually it ended up being a storage locker that they rented and they paid for because there was just so much, they had just accumulated so much stuff over the years, and I didn't have enough room in my house, and so they rented a storage locker in Prairie du Chien, and that's where it was housed.
And prior to renting the storage locker in Prairie du Chien, did you store any of the corporate records at your house?
Yes.
Okay. And after the storage locker was rented, did you continue to keep any records at your house?
Yes.
And how did you decide what would be kept at your house and what would be kept in the storage locker?
Anything that was pretty much over 4 years old, I would put in the storage locker. And before that, I would keep it. Convention stuff I would keep, speaker stuff I would keep at the house, things that I knew that I would need throughout the year I would keep at the house.
During the time period 2004 through 2017, did the association have a phone number where individuals interested in talking to somebody at the association could call?
Yes.
And where did the phone ring, that phone number?
It ran to my house. They put a line in so that there was a separate line for the phone, and then a separate line for the internet was installed.
You had a landline for the phone?
Yes.
Okay. And then you had an internet line?
Yes.
And who would answer the phone when just so we're clear, so if somebody was calling the association, they would call the number that was the number at your house?
Yes.
And who would answer the phone if calls came in on the association phone line?
I would.
Okay. Changing topics for a second, at any time during, strike that, during the time period 2004 through 2017, did the association ever provide Bruner and Associates LLC with a credit card?
Yes.
And whose name was the credit card in?
Mine, Cynthia Denmann.
Did the credit card also reference the association, or was it just in your name?
I can't remember if it said Wisconsin Water Dweller Association on it or not. It was issued through M&I, but I can't remember.
Okay. And how did that come about that you were provided with a credit card in the name of Cindy Denman?
Because when I would be on the road for continuing ed or convention or a meeting, that way I could pay immediately and we wouldn't be charged any extra interest.
And did you have any discussions with anybody on the board of directors at the association after the credit card was provided to you about what your authority was to use that credit
No.
card? During the time period 2004 through 2017, was Bruner and Associates LLC provided with a WWWA checkbook?
Yes.
And do you recall when that first occurred?
I want to say it was right away. It wasn't actually like a checkbook. It was like big 3-tier checks that you print. And that's how I paid for things at first.
Did that change over time?
Once the credit card, then I used the credit card for, things like at the convention or at continuing ed or when I was on the road, those type of things.
During the time period 2004 through 2017, did Bruner and Associates LLC have any responsibility for writing checks out on behalf of the association?
Yes.
And what was that responsibility?
To pay the bills, whether it was a bill from the Kalahari, the phone bill, mileage reimbursement for the board. I was to write the checks.
Do you know if you were an authorized signator on that checking account?
Yes, I was.
And did you have to get authority from any board members or anybody else at the association prior to writing out checks on behalf of the association?
No.
Were the checks, to your knowledge, were the checks that you wrote on behalf of the association approved by the board of directors?
I would do an income statement, and at the board meetings, I would let them know what checks were written for that month. Every year, the board changed, and sometimes there would be a treasurer that would want the checking account statement included, and so I would include that. It depended on what the board treasurer or secretary or president wanted. That's what I would provide to them.
Well, during the time period 2004 through 2017, did you sign any contracts on behalf of the association?
Yes, I did.
What type of contracts would you sign on behalf of the association?
Convention at Kalahari, and then continuing ed hotel convention room contracts. I would sign all of those.
And did you have authority to sign those without getting board approval first?
Yeah, yes and no. The yes is if I was redoing a hotel that we have done in the past, I could just go ahead and sign. If it was a new place, then I would go back to the board and say, tell them about the hotel, about the location, and then that's when they would say, okay, go ahead, let's sign that.
Would you look at Exhibit C7, please, which is ERD 39 through 40?
Okay.
Could you tell us what the first page is? And that's Exhibit C7 ERD 0039.
That's a Kalahari contract that I signed.
The top of that page has a signature and it says approved and authorized by Wisconsin Water Well Association. Underneath that, there's some
what's the number again?
39, Judge. Exhibit C7 ERD 39.
Okay, wasn't fast enough here. C7, all right. And go ahead.
Does your underneath signatures on that first page, ERD 39, whose writing is that?
That's mine, Cynthia Denmann.
Okay, would you look at the second page of Exhibit C7, which is marked ERD 40? Could you tell us what that is?
That's a Valley Expo and Display. They were the company that set up all of the booths for our conferences, and that's my signature on one of their contracts.
Okay. Offer Exhibit C7.
That's already been received. Number?
I believe he objected to that, Judge.
Oh, I'm sorry. You are correct. So I got to go. Any objection at this point, Mr. Tishano?
So the testimony is that these are contracts. Where are the contracts themselves?
My understanding is the testimony that those are just the signature pages from the contracts. Is that correct?
Yes, those are the
Yes.
signature pages.
Okay, so, just to show that she signed, not dealing with what the contract's actual terms or things are, do you have a objection?
No objection.
Okay, I will receive complaints exhibit number 7.
Cindy, during the time period that Bruner and Associates was providing services for the association, did the association require or mandate that Bruner and Associates provide services during any particular hours of the day?
Yes.
When did that first occur?
With Rick Peterson, I want to say it was 2016. They wanted the phone to be answered from 8 until 5.
Okay, let's back up a second. So who was Rick Peterson?
He was the president of the association at the time.
And you believe that was 2016?
I believe it.
Okay. And did you have a conversation with Mr. Peterson about the topic of Bruner and Associates answering phones during particular hours?
Yes, he had stated that they wanted the phones answered between those hours.
And those hours again were
8 to 5.
And during what days of the week?
Monday through Friday.
Okay. And when Mr. Peterson indicated that to you, what if anything did you do in response?
I said okay, that I would do that.
Right. Had you been doing that before you had this conversation?
I had been, but there'd be times that if I was out, at a board meeting, or if I wasn't there, then it went to voicemail.
During the time period 2004 through 2017, were you issued any instructions or directives by any board members of the association regarding the vacations?
I don't remember exactly when, but there was a conversation that I should talk with the board about when I was to go on vacation so that I wasn't going during busy seasons or busy times.
Did you give, when you took vacations during the time period 2004 through 2017, did you give the board advance notice of when you were taking a vacation?
Yes.
How would you do that?
By email, I would let the president know.
And how far in advance typically?
A couple months.
Okay. During the time period, Bruner,
Hello? Can you state that again? It got frozen here.
Oh, a couple months.
So basically, you just said that you let the president know a couple of months in advance of your vacations.
Yes.
during the time period while Bruner and Associates LLC was providing services for the association, were you required to attend any meetings of the association, its committees, or any other meetings?
Yes. All of the board meetings, some DNR board meetings, NRA 12 meetings, the media meetings, convention meetings, board meetings, convention, the national convention. Pretty much if there was a meeting going on, I was to be there. If it was a board meeting, I was taking minutes. If it was like a convention meeting or a NRA 12, I was just taking notes.
Okay. During the time period 2004 through 2017, how often did the board meet? And if that changed, please let us know.
Once a month, and then it changed. I believe it changed maybe to once a quarter in 2017, but I'm not exactly sure about that.
Okay. And where did board meetings occur while Bruner and Associates LLC was providing services?
At the Kalahari.
And did you have, strike that, did Bruner and Associates have any role in getting ready for the meetings prior to the meetings occurring? And I'm talking about the board meetings now.
Yeah, I would set up the board meeting rooms. I would, if the board needed if the board member needed a sleeping room, I would take care of that. I took care of getting the agenda out. I took care of the income statement. I took care of the agenda. I took care of the minutes. I took care of getting a agenda out to the board prior to the meeting. And then I verified that members would be at the meeting, that we would have a quorum.
Let's focus on the agendas first. You said you prepared the agendas. What did you use? What was the basis of you preparing the agenda? Did somebody tell you something? Did somebody give you something? How did you know?
Generally, it was the same agenda each month. And I just plugged in what was going on. If it was convention time, if I had different suppliers, or if we had speakers, I would plug that in. If the president had something they wanted on there, they would let me know, and I would put that on there.
Did you during the time period Bruner and Associates LLC was providing services for the association, would you send draft agendas to anyone for approval prior to sending them out to board members?
To the president?
You mentioned that you would take minutes at board meetings. How did you do that? Was that by computer? Or was that by handwriting? How did you actually do that?
Sometimes it was on the computer, sometimes it was handwritten. And then afterwards, I would type them up and then send them out to the board for approval, or not necessarily approval, but just so that they could see if there was any mistakes. And if I missed something, then they would write back to me and say, this needs to be put in there. And then they would go to the next board meeting, and that's where they would be approved.
Now, you had mentioned earlier in your testimony something about media meetings and convention meetings. And my question, this is for context, were there certain standing committees of the board?
Yes.
And can you tell the judge what those committees were?
We had a media committee, an NR 812 committee, a
Just hold
convention
it, media, NR 8,
12.
and what is that?
It's a DNR. What am I trying to say? A DNR. NR 812 language. It's DNR language that they were working on.
Can you explain that a little bit? That's not clear to me. When you say DNR language they were working on, what are you referring to, Cindy?
It was 812. I'm not exactly sure what 812 was, but it was language that they were working on with the DNR to I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's fine. So you've mentioned media, NR 812. What other committees were there, standing committees of the board?
Convention committees. Let's see, media, convention, membership. I think that might have been it.
Of those four committees that you referenced, which committee, if any, were you required to attend?
I went to all of them.
And what was your role at those meetings? And tell us if it changed.
To take notes. And if there were, like at the convention committee, if they decided they wanted a certain speaker, then I would contact that speaker.
Would somebody tell you to contact a particular speaker?
Yes.
And you said your role was to take notes. Part of your role is to take notes at those meetings. What would you do with those notes after you took them at the meeting, if anything?
I would take them back and then put them in the minutes. And then each of our minutes, there would be just a little blurb of what was done for media or what was done for membership, or if nothing was done, it was empty.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier in your testimony something about DNR meetings. Were you required during the time period Bruner and Associates was providing services for the association to attend any DNR meetings?
Yes, I went to DNR meetings pertaining to continuing ed and setting that up and setting up the credits, because the DNR is the credits for the meetings. So I would attend those meetings to work with them to get the credits.
And how would you know if you were supposed to attend a DNR meeting?
They would tell me.
Who is they?
One of the board members.
On average, how much contact did you have with the board president during the time period the Bruner and Associates was providing services for the association?
It depended on which president it was. If it was like Keith Myers, I talked to him maybe once a week. If it was Terry Marshall, I talked to him maybe once a day.
And when was Terry Marshall the president?
I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe 2013 through 15, maybe. I don't know.
And when you would talk to Terry Marshall once a day, what type of things would you be talking to him about?
Anything from continuing ed to speakers to membership to the website. It could be anything. Something to do with the convention or and just a note, it wasn't just weekdays. They would call me, board members would call me on the weekends if they had an idea or they needed something. They would call. It didn't matter. They would call.
Changing topics for a second. During the time period the associates was providing services for the association, did you ever keep a daily log of the activities being performed on behalf of the association?
Yes, I did.
When did you start doing that?
Maybe 2013.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the log. The log went with everything when it was picked up, and so I don't have the log, but they asked me to keep a log of everything that I did and all of the calls that came in every day. And then that was put into a secretary's report, which I gave to the board each month.
All right. You said they asked you to keep a log of everything you were doing. Who is they?
Terry Marshall.
When he was president?
Yes.
And did Mr. Marshall explain why he was instructing you to keep a log?
I don't recall.
Okay. But in any event, when you were instructed to do so, you said you did start keeping a log.
Yes.
And could you just, because we don't have the document, could you describe how you actually did that?
I printed out months, blocks, and I just wrote in the blocks what I did that day or who called that day. And I had a binder and I just put it in the binder, and then I put it all together for the secretary's report.
Okay.
Sometimes if there was a memo or an email that came in that I thought the board would want to read, I would put that in the minutes also.
Okay. So you mentioned a log, but you also mentioned a log of activities, but you also mentioned some phone record. Are those different things or the same thing?
They're sort of the same. They were two different things to start out with, but then as time went on, I just put everything together because it was just easier to have. If someone called and I was putting together membership brochures, I just put it together.
Okay. Would you look at Exhibit C12, please, and Bates page ERD 150?
150?
ERD 150.
Okay.
All right.
Hold on a second. I'm getting there.
No, I'm sorry, Judge.
Okay, I got it. I got it.
So 150 is the second page of minutes from a June 14th, 2013 meeting at the Kalahari. And I want you to look at the fifth paragraph down that starts with Terry. Do you see that?
Yep.
And it states, Terry asked that a secretary correspondence be added to the monthly agenda. The report shall be emailed on a monthly basis to the board and include phone calls and contacts. Cindy will add new members to the newsletter. Did you at some point start providing secretary correspondence to the board on a monthly basis?
Yes.
And you've described this daily log and then the phone log. How did those things relate, if at all, to the secretary's correspondence you began to provide?
It was the same thing. That's what I used for my secretary correspondence.
So what would it look like when it was presented to the board?
It would just be, it would say like secretary's report, and then it would say whatever report was in the minutes.
Okay, what I'm trying to understand is describe for us keeping track of what you were doing daily in these phone logs. What format would that be presented in the secretary's correspondence? Would those things just be attached, or did you do some summary? That's what I'm trying to understand.
It would be a summary in the minutes.
Okay, and did you provide the secretary's correspondence to board members ahead of the meetings?
No.
Okay, you would provide it at the meetings?
Yes.
And would there be a discussion at the meetings about the secretary's correspondence?
Yes.
Okay. And could you generally describe for us what that would involve, the discussions?
They would ask me questions about individuals that called, or they would ask about a certain email, or if I did or didn't something. They would ask me those types of questions.
And these minutes are June of 2013. After June of 2013, did you provide a report to the board at each meeting about that would include the information about the phone contacts and your daily activities?
I would try to, yes.
Okay. Would you look at Exhibit C14, please?
Yeah, what page?
ERD 213.
Got it.
And that might, let me see, C14. No, that's not, I apologize. Okay, I'm sorry, go to 217, please. These are the minutes from April 12th, 2015 meeting, and it's, again, ERD 217.
Okay.
All right. Third paragraph down indicates the next order of business was the executive secretary report compiled and presented by Cindy Wachter. The report included the 2015 phone log and completed activities and future goals. And my question is, in March of 2015, did you begin to include additional information in your report that wasn't previously in the secretary's correspondence?
Yes, I tried to offer more information on what I was trying to do with regards to membership, and the goals that I had to bring in more members.
I'm going to direct you to another exhibit in just once, or another page in just a second. Okay, would you go to exhibit C15, Bates page ERD 0264?
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, got it.
And let me know when you're there, Cindy.
I don't have a 264. Mine ends at 250.
Are you on exhibit C15?
Oh, let me see here. There's C14.
You get to 15.
What page is C15 on?
It's the exhibit that is marked C15.
Okay.
I could always show it on the screen if you want to see if I can be fancy.
Yeah, because Peter, I don't have that. I end at 250.
That's fine, Judge. It's Bates page ERD 264.
Okay, and you wanted dealing with, all right, so see if I can. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Ah, there we go.
Is it, do I have it on full size or do I have it smaller?
You don't have it on full size, Judge.
Okay, well, let's see. See, that doesn't.
And if you can't get it, I can work around it, Judge.
Okay, let me just.
There we go.
All right.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, Judge. Thank you. So
Okay.
this document is a document titled Agenda, and under Roman numeral 5, it indicates Secretary Report, Sub A Monthly Duties Report, and Sub B Phone Log. Is this an agenda you prepared?
Yes.
And do you know what the Secretary's report on Roman numeral 5 is referring to?
Yeah. Well, it's referring to my report to the board.
Okay, and the monthly duties report, just can you explain to us what that's referring to?
What I did during the month.
Okay, and the phone log?
The phone calls that came into the office. When we did our commercials, they wanted to track all of the phone calls that came in to see if they were coming in because of the commercials.
All right. All right, so I'm done with that, Judge. Thank you.
Okay.
Early in your testimony, you mentioned something about a newsletter, so I want to talk a little bit about newsletters. While Bruner and Associates was providing services for the association, did the association publish newsletters on some type of periodic basis?
Yes, quarterly.
Okay. And did you have any role in that newsletter?
Yes, I put it together.
Okay. Was that solely your work product, or were any other members of the board involved in publishing that, putting together the content of the newsletter?
There were other, like the president wrote an article, and sometimes the secretary or the treasurer would write an article. We would do membership spotlights where we would have a member write an article. Otherwise, it was mainly just my production. And then I would send that to Gary Kuhn, and he would proof it for grammar mistakes, that type of thing. And then he would send it back, and then it would be sent out.
And did you understand that you had to get approval of the newsletter from the board president before it could be sent out?
No. Not necessarily, no.
Okay. You mentioned earlier annual meetings of the association, and when did those meetings typically take place?
At the convention once a year.
Okay. And when was that? Was there a set time period, or did that?
In January. It was generally in January at the Kalahari.
Okay. And what occurred at those annual meetings while Bruner and Associates was providing services for the association?
An agenda was put out, and it was typically just like an agenda that we would have at a board meeting, and we would go over everything that happened throughout the year. If we were going to do a commercial, the board would go to the general membership, and they would vote on whether or not to spend the money for a commercial.
Were the annual meetings while Bruner and Associates was providing services for the association different in terms of how many members showed up as opposed to the monthly or quarterly meetings?
Yes. We would have, at the board meetings, there would be like maybe 8 to 12 of the guys would be there. And at the general membership meeting, I would say 20 to 25 would show up.
And what was your role with respect to those meetings?
I would do the agenda. I would set up the room. I would send out all the notices. I would do the registrations for the, not only the general membership meeting, but for the conference. I would take the notes.
Did you ever have any of your family members assist you at the annual meetings?
Yes.
And how often did that occur?
For sure twice. I believe it was 2000, well, actually it was 2017 that my mom was there. And a couple years prior to that, my daughter came and helped out.
Okay. And was your mom ever an employee of Bruner and Associates LLC?
No.
Was she ever paid by Bruner and Associates LLC for helping out?
No.
Was your daughter ever an employee of Bruner and Associates LLC?
No.
Was she ever paid?
No.
During the time period Bruner and Associates LLC was providing services for the association, were you aware of any board members ever having members of their family show up at either the annual meeting or other meetings to help out?
Yes. Terry Fargo's family came to every convention.
Terry, how's the last name?
Fargo. I believe it's Farago.
Anybody else?
Terry Marshall's daughter came, but I don't know if she ever actually did work. But a lot of the board members brought their families. I mean, that's what we wanted. We wanted it to be a family event.
Now, let me change topics for a second. When Bruner and Associates LLC was formed in 2004, did it have clients or customers that it provided services for in addition to the association?
No,
I'm talking about 2004 now.
right, no. The only person that I was working for was the Waterwell Association.
Did Bruner and Associates ever provide services for other trade associations?
Yes, I did throughout the years.
Okay, and that's what I'm trying to get to. So I'm focusing on the time period 2004 through 2012 first. Do you believe Bruner and Associates provided services for other trade associations during that time period?
Yes, I did. Briefly, do you want the names?
Yes.
Okay. The Wisconsin Painters Association, the Wisconsin Auctioneers Association, Geothermal Association, the Electrical Association. I'm not sure exactly what their names were, and Cook and Frankie.
And did Bruner and Associates stop at some point providing services for other trade associations?
Yes. Yeah.
And do you know approximately when that occurred?
I went back and looked at my taxes, and I think in 2012, I just had monies from the Waterwell Association. So it had to have been 2012, somewhere in there.
And after that, after 2012, 2013, did Bruner and Associates restart providing services for other trade organizations?
No.
And can you tell us why Bruner and Associates stopped providing services for other trade associations in 2012 or 2013?
Because I couldn't handle more than the Waterwell Association.
How were you, well, describe for the judge how the relationship between Bruner and Associates and the association ended.
Well, I had, where do you want me to start?
Well, let's start with when it ended.
Okay, it ended in March or April of 2017.
But let me try to help you out here. How did you learn that the relationship ended?
I called Rick Peterson because we were going to remortgage our house, and I needed a copy of my contract. And he informed me that they were going to open my position up and that I could apply for it if I wanted to.
Okay. Who was Rick Peterson at the time?
The president.
Okay. Did you reapply for it?
No, I did not.
And what happened when you didn't reapply for it?
I didn't have a job.
Okay. Now, you've already described for us that you had office equipment, furniture, supplies, records, etc., at your house. When you didn't reapply for the position, what happened with the office equipment at your house?
2 or 3 of the board members came and picked everything up.
And tell us what they picked up.
Everything, the filing cabinets, desk, chair, computers, laptops, paper, pens, envelopes, filing, file folders, notebooks, all of the contracts, everything that I was working on. They took everything.
What happened with respect to the landline that the association had provided to Bruner and Associates to answer calls?
I had it turned off.
And what about the internet service?
That was also turned off.
Now, would you look at exhibit R2, please?
Art, okay.
Just a minute here. Not
Bates page ERD 305.
all right.
What is ERD 305?
When I decided that I was not going to reapply for my job that I had held for 17 years, I wrote a letter to the membership, and that is what this is. And
Okay, the third paragraph starts with, "I am not an employee of the Wisconsin Water Well Association." Why did you write that?
because they weren't paying taxes. I wasn't getting paid taxes. And that's what I meant by that.
And did the association ever pay its share of Social Security, the payroll tax for you?
No.
And did you have any retirement account with the association?
No.
I want to go back and just ask you, with respect to Bruner and Associates expenses for lodging associated with carrying out duties and responsibilities under the contract, who paid for lodging?
The Water Well Association did.
And what about meals associated with Bruner and Associates carrying out association responsibilities?
The association did. They paid for everything.
Okay. Now, going back to the contract, Exhibit C17, do you believe the contract accurately describes the responsibilities of Bruner and Associates with respect to the association? In other words, is there anything you disagree with on it or add?
No, I think that's everything that I did.
Okay, those are all the questions I have.
Okay, just to check, about how long do you think your cross is? I'm just sort of looking at where lunch is going to fit in here.
Sure. And
Mr.
Judge, just
Tachano.
Yes, can you hear me, Judge?
Yeah.
Okay, two things. I think I probably have over an hour, and I also thought that I'd be able to handle a short court appearance at 2. It was calendared for 2 today, a Zoom appearance. So I'm wondering if it's possible to at least coordinate one of the breaks around 2 o'clock, if necessary. Hopefully we're done by then, but if we're not, I just want to make sure the court's aware, and I beg the court's forgiveness. Shouldn't take more than maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, well, and dealing with the, about how long do you think your cross is going to be here?
About an hour.
Okay, so, and dealing with,
Maybe an hour and a half at the most.
and I'm always viewing that the attorneys are optimistic about these things. I think the way I want to handle it, given that, where we are, and I know how attorneys, when you get rolling, that you want to keep going. I think that this seems to be a time that, I want to stop for lunch and say we convene at 12:30, and dealing with, and you can just stay on and just, no, I'm going to keep it open, but you can, the leave and then come back in. But they're dealing with that, we'll break until 12:30, and then we can take a quick break at 2 on the situation, and hopefully you will time it perfectly, and so that you'll just be through with your questioning, and it'll be before your witnesses, so you can check on your witnesses at the same time. That's your assignment for this afternoon, is to time your break so that you've done with Ms. Denman at that time.
Okay.
So, okay, then anyway, we will break now and be back at 12:30.
Okay, thank you.
I'll log back.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Judge, before we get offline, if we need any exhibits for rehabilitation, how do you want to handle that?
As I explained the situation, that if anything extra in the circumstances, that I'm probably not going to, so certainly in the matter that the parties should have an idea. If there's something that you want to refer to, then I can rule on it, but this is not set up to deal with adding exhibits at the time. So if there's something that you want to talk to and refer to, that's why we have the pre-hearing conference prior. So you're not talking about something we marked.
No, correct. And I don't know that it's going to be necessary, but I don't know that it's going to be necessary. It depends on what the cross is.
Okay, well, in dealing with so I'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But in the, the parties should at this point know what this hearing was about, and to, anyway, I'm not, you can try to propose something of how to deal with something that I haven't seen, and I will decide, given your, what you are proposing to do, what I'm to do about it. But just to know, in the future, anything that you may use, is my understanding, is supposed to be a part of the witness exhibit list, which is given prior.
All right, and just to address that, Judge, maybe I'm mistaken, but my understanding of the rules have always been that documents for rebuttal or potential impeachment or for rehabilitation may or may not be needed. And I haven't looked at this in a while, but my understanding of the rules is we do not have to submit those things because we don't know if they're going to be necessary. I may be wrong.
Well, there's two parts of that. One is, what we've done in the past isn't exactly the same thing, because we're not, in that circumstances. And second of all, and I've done this for a while, and there's very rarely anything which is really rebuttal. The parties know about what the conflict is. I mean, my understanding and my interpretation of rebuttal is something in which the parties could not reasonably anticipate being needed for the hearing. Very rarely is, I mean, since the issue is always on the complainant's case, you know, starting from the complainant's case, or almost always, it's about whether you can show, whether the complainant can show pretext. Then anything that goes to credibility should be known prior to that in the circumstances. So the two parts of that are, you know, one, you know, what does the ALJ consider rebuttal? I'm saying that is, I would have for years read that narrowly, again, to translate it into something which could not reasonably be anticipated. Issues regarding credibility or issues, the extent to which I'm going to be hearing different testimony regarding what the, you know, as to what the parties are saying that her jobs, you know, the duties were, that certainly could have been anticipated. The second part of the thing is relating to the issues regarding the WebEx.